So good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Just like to thank Bob for bringing us here, and Phil for those lovely unflattering words. So, does anybody here know what we did in the year 2013? Okay. So just for those of you who don't know, in the year 2013, we ran 366 marathons, back to back, day after day, with no days off. It may sound like an extreme thing to do, but really, it wasn't that bad looking back at it. So people ask us mainly two questions. Why would you do such a thing, and how did you do it? So I'm going to try to explain that in about 10 minutes here. The reason why, well, we must say that we thought it was a great idea at the time. And we did it really to inspire and to motivate people, to show people that a couple of old grannies in their 60s and almost 70s could run a marathon every day on a diet of fruit and vegetables. No stimulants, no drugs, no vitamins, no painkillers. Just a diet of 80% fruit and about 20% vegetables. So that's the reason we did it, to inspire and to motivate people, and we think we're working on that. How we did it? When we decided we would do it, it seemed like a daunting sort of a task. But once we made the decision to do it, then we knew we had a goal and we knew what the goal was. So in the year 2012, the year before we ran our marathons, we trained. And to get used to the idea, we got up every morning at 10 to 4. This is the year before we left. And we left the house at 5 every morning, even though we had jobs to do. And we ran every single day, including a long run once a week, a run of about 30 miles. And by the time the 1st of January came about, we were ready to roll. 1st of January 2013, we left Melbourne, heading for the East Coast. I must say that the first 10 days were the hardest. But after 10 days, we got into a routine, up every morning at 4 o'clock, out the door at 10 to 5. Every 5 miles, we'd take a break for food, lots of bananas, things like that. Now going up the East Coast, it was wonderful. There was fruit everywhere. Everywhere we looked, there was pineapples, bananas, mangoes, papayas, and we just thrived on a diet of raw fruit and vegetables. We had a couple of challenges along the way. We had a period there of about 4 or 5 days where the temperature was over 44 degrees. I think in your language that's over 110. Extremely hot. We carried small water bottles. After 5 minutes, we could barely drink them because they were boiling. We also had a series of bushfires, which we were very lucky to escape most of them. We didn't have any road closures. And we also ran through the end of a cyclone, which may sound pretty horrific. There were lots of headwinds. There were lots of rainy days, but it wasn't too cold. But every morning we would get up and put on our wet gear from the night before, slip into our wet shoes and out the door. When we left the East Coast, we turned left and we ran across the top part of Australia. And then everything changed. We had to stock up food for long distances. There's very few shops out there. So often when we stocked up our food, it would be 10 boxes of bananas, 8 boxes of oranges, apples, pineapples, everything you could think of. Our poor vehicles, which we had two and a caravan, were loaded to the gunnels. And even though along the top here it wasn't too bad, there was the odd town where we could pick up food. So very soon we're at the top of Australia, up in the tropics. We're up there for the winter, so the temperatures range between 80 degrees and 100 degrees most days. We did find when we were running on the really hot roads, when the temperatures were over 110 degrees, our feet did get a little warm underfoot. The temperature on the road was often over 120 degrees. But we found a neat trick. We had a freezer on board, and we alternated 3 pairs of shoes. So we kept 2 pairs of shoes in the freezer. So every time we stopped, which was about every 5 miles for a break, a smoothie or something, we would take a lovely, cool, freezing pair of shoes out of the freezer and put them on. It was just beautiful. It didn't last that long though. So we wound our way around Australia, and there's all sorts of things happened, but an interesting part of the trip was the Nullarbor. The Nullarbor Plain in Australia runs right across the southern part of Australia. And 47 days with no shops. Can you imagine stocking up your house for 47 days and not have a shop to go to? We did a pretty good job. There again we had our vehicles loaded down stacks of fruit. Unfortunately, it ran out at 44 days. And we couldn't get more fruit in because we had to bring it across the border. And they wouldn't let us do that, so we went into survival mode. We had a sack of chia seeds, a sack of almonds, and a sack of organic raisins. So between that, we were able to make a lovely chia pudding. We soaked the almonds and made almond milk. We soaked the raisins and put the juice into the brew. And 4 times a day it was cheers, 3 cheers. We were surprised that we actually ran really, really well on a diet of chia seeds, almonds and raisins. Anyway, on we went, and there was all sorts of dramas. We had crew come and go. Some of them before they said they were going to. So we had days when we were down to 1 crew and we had to make do somehow. But we did make do, and before we knew it, whoopee, we only had 66 marathons to go. We'd done 300, and we felt then we were almost home. Interestingly enough, we both lost quite a bit of weight in the first 3 months. If you want to lose weight, lose your love handles, just run a marathon every day. They'll soon go. So with 60 days to go, we headed for home. By then we were starting to put weight back on again, and we were running our fastest marathons. Most days our marathons took about 6 hours. That's what we averaged. But for the last 60 days, our marathons were down to 5.5 hours. And we felt like we were on the way home. So we got into Melbourne about 8 days before the new year. Then we had to run the length of Tasmania. Apparently Tasmania is part of Australia, and we thought we should do it. So we ran down there. It took us about 6 days. We got back to the north part again. We caught the ferry overnight. And on New Year's Eve, we were in Melbourne. New Year's Eve day, we ran the last 42 or 26 miles into Melbourne. We were asleep actually before New Year's Eve kicked in. But the next morning, as we'd heard that somebody had run 365 consecutive marathons, we thought for the record, we'd run an extra marathon. So we ran from downtown Melbourne, and by coincidence, our hometown was about 27 miles away. So we ran to our hometown. We felt a little like Forrest Gump. We picked up people on the way. We ran into the stage at our hometown with about 50 people behind us. Very emotional day, and we were really glad to be home. That was it. I must say though, we had this fantasy of on the next day, day 367, that we would sleep in. Unfortunately, when we woke up in the morning, there was 2 TV crews in our backyard with their satellite dishes. So we didn't sleep until the next day. So that's it. I'm going to hand this over to Janette.
Hey everyone. Well, that wasn't too bad, was it? So for those of you that don't really know how big Australia is, basically the United States fits into Australia and there's some left over. So we're talking about going all the way around the edge of the country, not just across it, but all the way around. So it does take, it's quite a way to go. I'm just going to reiterate some of what we've been talking about and show you a few pictures, because every picture tells a story, as they say. So as Ellen said, you know, we ran this run around Australia, but why did we do this? Why would we even want to do such a thing? And the reason really behind it all was because we really wanted to share this really positive message about how people can do anything they want, physically, mentally, and spiritually, on a raw vegan diet, a plant-based diet. And what a difference that makes to not only your health, but the health of all living beings and the health of the planet. And as Phil so eloquently put it, this planet is the only one we have. This is our home and it's the only one. So we better be taking care of it. Now we were running for those who can't, for the animals. And the most important thing was to bring this message forth with health and happiness and to show by example what we can achieve, and especially for our children and for future generations. So when we were running, we ran in barefoot shoes. And the reason for that was to bring that message of treading lightly on the earth. After we'd run about 100 marathons consecutively, we were sort of getting into the groove, and people started to take notice. And for the first couple of weeks, they thought, oh well, there goes the grannies and they'll be done soon. What they didn't realize was that even though we were out there running alongside the big road trains and, you know, whatever came our way, including the animals, we weren't going to stop. And the reason why we weren't going to stop was because we wanted to bring this positive message about how important it is that we bring love and kindness and compassion to all living beings, towards each other, towards the animals, for our children, and for their future. And we wanted to be out there for as long as we possibly could. So a year sounded like the perfect situation. What we didn't know was, until we got out there, that there's a lot of long roads. And once we got, you know, at least halfway around, we got into the groove of running. But it was the mindset that took over at that point. And a lot of people ask us, well, you know, how did you do this? Well, physically, you can train for anything if you're in a state of optimal health. to get to that state of optimal health, you just eat the right foods, make the right choices, the conscious choices that are going to make a difference. But it's keeping that goal and keeping that focus and knowing that what you're doing is making a difference for others as well as for yourself. Because it is important to believe in yourself as well. And this I found during my journey 13 years earlier than running around Australia. And that was when I was told I had 6 months to live. I had a diagnosis of cancer, and that man in a white coat said to me, "You got 6 months to live and you'll be in denial for a while, but you'll get over it." Well, you know, I said to him, when I was a child, my parents wanted me to learn the basic rules of life. And so they sent me to Sunday school. Not once was I ever told that God wears a white coat. So at that point, I realized that no one can tell you how much time you have left to live, how much time you have to bring a good, positive message, to live your life consciously, to think, act, and believe in what you know is right and true. So our message to everyone through this run and through everything we do is that it is so simple and easy to get it right. There's nothing complicated about eating fresh, ripe, raw, organic fruits and vegetables. It's the fastest food there is. Comes in its own organic wrapper. You can even throw the wrapper away and do no harm. How easy does that get? We found I had been vegan for several years before we went 100% raw. And we found that the difference in not cooking the food at all made a difference in the amount of nutrients we were getting. So doing 100% the best we possibly could do was why we went 100% raw. So after we finished the run, we were inundated by the media, mainstream as well as others, wanting to know how we did this, why we did this. No longer were they asking, where do you get your protein? Because clearly we got it from somewhere. So we were approached by a filmmaker and he said, this is the most wonderful example of how people together can make a difference. By just pulling together one step at a time, we can make a difference and bring this message to the world. He was so moved by the run around Australia that we had done, and the reason that we had done it, that he wanted to spread that worldwide. So in the last year, we've been working on this documentary. It is now at post-production stage with help from some wonderful people, including our wonderful friend Phil Wan, and many others who have helped us financially and just supported us in any way they can to get this documentary out to the world. In May this year, when we get back, actually in April, when we get back from here this coming week, we will be just doing the final filming for the film, and then we're taking the film with the production company to the Cannes Film Festival in France in May. And we've been invited there to present it so that we can get worldwide distribution. But this documentary is not about us. This documentary is about a message that clearly needs to come forward to the whole world. It needs to go into mainstream with this message that will make a difference to people who don't know what they don't know yet. All of us in this room know something about making a difference. We know something about how to pronounce the word vegan. When we spoke in Toronto last year at a conference where we were speaking to 1,000 people and everybody spent $5,000 to get in the door, not one person, apart from us, was even vegan. We were speaking to scientists, we were speaking to the medical industry, we were speaking to the pharmaceutical industry and the agribusiness, and we did not hold back. And as Phil said, we are all capable. We are all here to help bring this message forward. Every one of us, just by our own actions and by leading by example, being vibrantly healthy and showing what it is to live consciously and how that can make a difference. Every one of us is going to make a difference, and together we can make such a huge change in this world. And as my t-shirt says, we need to be the change we want to see. Gandhi, in his wisdom, has taught us much. And one of the most important things that he said that we kept with us every day on the run was, life is not about increasing its speed. So if anyone, as Phil mentioned, if anyone knows of anyone who can help us to get this, make sure that this film comes out, to bring this message of positivity to the world so that people can see how easy and simple it is for us to all make a difference together. I'd like to show you a very short film, but I'm not actually seeing this is not coming up with being able to make this happen. Zach, are you able to help me here? Sorry, it's just gone at a lower resolution, I guess. So some of the, here. Sorry, I just can't. No. Here we go. We're good. Sorry about that. That's just to show that we can all make little mistakes. Sorry, do we have sound, please?
Got it started.
Okay, so we're not going to get the sound. I'm sorry. So there's really not a lot of point in showing this then, because it is about sound. I'm going to put it on and just show some of the leaders that are going to be involved and shown in the film. And Phil Wallen obviously is one of our sponsors and friends and advocates for making sure that this film does get out to the world. We also have done many interviews with other people, especially a lot of other athletes, vegan athletes, and Robert Cheek is one of them. You've probably heard of him. He's a vegan bodybuilder, and he is talking about just letting people know that eating a plant-based diet is going to make a huge difference to the world. most people don't understand, unless you're vegan, what a difference it does make. And not only for athletes and physical performance, but also for the mental clarity and therefore the decisions that we make in life. And that can go forward to the leaders of the world as well. And perhaps some of the decisions that they are making will be a little different to what they might have been had they not been eating a sad diet. So we also have some other things happening in the movie. So it's definitely showing a lot of cinematic footage of the run around Australia itself, but also it has it's interviewing a lot of different people from different walks of life, including people in the medical industry, including people in working with children and working with the animals. And what we've tried to do with this film is to keep everything absolutely positive. We have some incredible documentaries out there at the moment, and they're coming out all the time, and they're great to see. And a lot of them do show, how terrible it is what is going on in the animal industry and how we do need to stop this. But what we're doing with this movie is that it's going to be all on a positive note so that people who don't know about what is going on will not be shied away from anything about the movie and about the message that it conveys. So it's Old School Productions is a production company in Australia. It's pretty much grassroots, but our filmmaker and director is they're both just come on board because they really were interested in the message itself rather than what we actually did, but more about what the message is. So you're going to see this without music and without commentary, but it will give you some idea. This is the trailer for the movie as it stands at the moment, and this is just showing some of what's going to come in the movie. But what has happened over the last year during the cinematic filming that we've been doing is something quite dramatic, and that is that the director and the film producer have gone vegan. And they do come from this very, corporate film production side of things, so they've been in the business for many years. And all of a sudden, they found that they can't keep up with the play. So when we're out there doing this on-location filming that we're doing, they're bringing their pillow along and having to sleep in between shots, and we're out there going for a bit of a run. And we're more than twice their age. So without even trying, we got that message through to these guys that you're never too old and you're never too young to make a change for the better. And so they decided that they better, move along with this. And so they decided to do a challenge. So they said, what if we do just for 30 days, we'll go vegan and we'll go raw. And I said, why would you just do it for 30 days? This is for life. This is for everything. But they said, well, let's just see what happens in 30 days. So fast forward in 30 days, 30 days came up about 3 weeks ago. And both those guys have lost about 10 kilograms each. They're brighter, more vibrant, they're full of life. They're phoning us up and saying, hey, see, so when we go do another shoot? And they're just, the change is phenomenal. And two young guys who really had no idea before this. So it's wonderful for us, and we're very blessed to have two people who are leading a team of professionals in the film industry to make a film that is going to bring a message that they believe in as well, and that they can actually, along with us and with every one of you and all the people out there that know more about the difference it's going to make, we're really going to bring that to the world. And we thank you very much for coming here today, for listening to all of the speakers, for supporting the World Vegan Summit, and in doing so, you're supporting yourselves, your children, your families, you're supporting the animals and the world and the environment. It's all connected, it's all one, we are all one. Thank you. If you would like to come and find us anytime for the rest of the day, we're right next door. We have a booth there. We have our 2 books, the Raw Can Cure Cancer, which is based on my journey with cancer and into a raw, vegan, conscious lifestyle, and Running Out of Time, which describes the run around Australia. And if you're interested in helping us with the documentary, please come and see us. If not, go on our website, Raw Vegan Path, and you will find the link through and go from there. Thank you very much. Enjoy.